Welcome to the session once again. This is your boy Walker FX, and as we always do, today we are coming to look on DXY, gold, and BTC. Weekly analysis or outlook on what's gonna happen the week ahead of us. And today we wouldn't like to waste much time. Let's just quickly jump into it and start it. So this is a monthly time frame on DXY, like I always do when I'm analyzing the charts. I always want to start with the DXY because I've been telling you the DXY is very crucial and very important, something you don't overlook, right? Yeah, and you can't even overlook it because it's very important. It plays a bigger role in the forex industry. So let's start with DXY. For the past few weeks, DXY and gold hasn't really given us any clear movement. It's still doing the same thing, it's still at the same place, no big movement. We haven't seen any big movement or any break of structure or change of character. So if you have really been following my analysis, I've always been doing the same thing, and I'm always looking at one thing when I'm analyzing the DXY. So the DXY is still in an uptrend on the monthly time frame. As you can see, it keeps respecting this trend line, monthly trend line. And let's focus more on this side. Let's focus more on this side. So let's clear this because we all know DXY is an uptrend. So let's focus here on what's happening here. Over the few weeks or months, DXY has been consolidating, no big movement, no big significant movement, right? And like I told you last week or last 2 weeks, we were expecting DXY to drop to this zone, because why? Because DXY has been giving us, the current structure of DXY is bearish. Why is it bearish? Because this was a support zone that got broken to the downside, and ever since that support got broken, market has been respecting this support zone, which is now acting like a resistance or as a resistance. Like I told you, when you are trading support and resistance, support always or in the future will tend to resistance, and resistance in the future will tend to support, right? So when this support got broken, DXY has been using this support as a resistance now, right over here, and it's respecting it, right? It's respecting it very hardly. It cannot break up. Anytime it gets here, it rejects, right? So last 2 weeks we're expecting DXY to drop to this side because we saw some kind of bearish movement. But what happened last week again? Nothing really happened. It still came up here again and started doing the same thing, or still continue doing the same thing. It's giving us a consolidation market, no significant movement, right? So what are we expecting? Let's go to the weekly time frame to see. You see, on the weekly time frame, you clearly see what I'm talking about. Is consolidating, no clear movement, and we don't want to trade consolidation markets, right? That's why last week we didn't really take more or enough trades on gold, because DXY, we've not seen any clear movement on DXY. It's still consolidating and we don't know what's gonna happen, right? This is a clear movement on the weekly time frame. This support was got broken to the downside here, and market has been respecting this support, now acting as a resistance, right? This is how it looks on the weekly time frame. So what are we expecting on DXY? Let's go to the daily time frame to see what's happening on DXY. Same on the daily time frame. Same on the daily time frame. No significant movement. When price gets here, it rejects, and now It's doing the same thing over and over again. It cannot break this low, it cannot break this high. So what are we expecting? Trading is all about patience, right? You have to wait to see what's gonna happen. So now we are expecting either price to break to the upside, right? To the upside over here. See, we want price to break to the upside. We are expecting price to what? We want to see something like this to the upside, right? To the upside. And if we see anything like this, it means gold is also going to drop, right? Why are we expecting a move upwards? Let's go to the 4-hour time frame to see why we are expecting a move upwards. We are targeting this high. Let me clear this one. We are targeting this high on DXY. We are targeting this high on DXY, which you can clearly see markets want to go there, right? Why are we expecting a buy on DXY? Because on the 4-hour time frame, we can see market giving us a change of character and a break of structure. We got a change of character over here. Why is it a change of character? Because we've been seeing what? Lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high. This high couldn't get broken, so this is a lower high again. We got break of structure over here. This also couldn't get broken, which indicates that market wants to reverse, right? So far as this low was not broken, market came here to give us a lower high again, a lower low. It broke this structure, right? So this high broke, went to the downside and broke this low, right? So this high is important. This is our lower high at the moment, right? So what can we see? We can see that market has broken that high. Like I always tell you, in market structure or price action, the high or low that breaks a structure is what you always have to focus on, right? So we always focus on the high or the low that broke a structure. So when that high or low gets broken, that's when we get a change of character, right? So this is the lower high that broke this structure to the downside, right, and give us this lower low, right? So this is what we'll be focusing on, and we can clearly see this lower high has been broken to the downside, and this is a change of character, and this is a break of structure over here, which we can clearly see that DXY has given us a change of character and a break of structure and wants to push more up, wants to push more to the upside, right? So what are we going to expect on DXY? Let's go to the 1-hour time frame, or let's just draw our Fibonacci on the 4-hour time frame. When we draw our Fibonacci, if we want to see more clear movements to the upside, we have to see DXY giving us, DXY can move upwards any moment from here, right? But if it doesn't move any moment from here and wants to retrace a little bit before moving to the upside, we have some zones over here that price have to come and fill, which is this zone. Price can give us this zone on the 50% psychological level, or something like this on a 78.6 deep retracement level. DSY can give us something like this. Or if we don't see any movement like that, just from here, it can give us this rejection to this side. It can retrace to this resistance zone that I always tell you. This resistance is now turning as a support, right? This resistance got broken. Now you can see price has been rejecting on this resistance, so it's now a support. So we can see a little retracement here and continue to the upside. For next week, we'll be targeting this high on DXY. We'll be targeting this high on DXY next week, right? So if we are expecting a buy on DXY next week, what are we expecting on gold? Let's go to gold. Like we told you, or like I told you in my videos, gold is still in a downtrend. The overall trend of gold is bullish, right? But the current market structure on gold is bearish. So gold is giving us a bearish structure. right? Gold is giving us a bearish structure unless a high is being broken. That's when we can see that gold is, gold has changed character. So gold is still giving us a structure, bearish structure, unless this high is being broken. When you watched my previous video, I've always been drawing this high. Unless this high is being broken on gold, that's when we see that now gold is, giving us a bullish structures. So far as this high hasn't been broken, gold is still what? Gold is still in a downtrend. Let's dive into it and analyze the gold. So like we can see over here, gold has a long way to go. Gold has a long way to go to the downside. When you check our left side, gold hasn't still respected this demand zone over here. Gold hasn't still respected this demand zone over here, and this gap hasn't still been filled. You always have to know that when gold leaves a gap, or when a market leaves a gap like this, or a long wick like this, in the nearby future, market has to come and fill this long wick rejection, right? Yeah, there are others resting over here, right? So either gold will come down to fill this demand zone, or even come a bit lower to fill this gap, something like this, to fill this gap, right? Or gold can give us something like this to the upside, right? You have to know this is a daily time frame too. So this movement is a very big movement, more than 2,000 pips, right? More than 2,000 pips. So what are we expecting? We got a consolidation over here. Last week we saw price doing what? Last week we saw price giving us this kind of movement. We saw price giving us a movement, this kind of movement. Now you know that gold price action hasn't been really good, because this movement should be giving us as like a bullish structure, or this movement should be giving us a bullish movement, but this movement turned out to be a bearish movement right over here. So we saw price breaking this low, giving us what? Breaking this low, giving us an indication that markets wants to push lower, right? Yeah, price gave us this indication, breaking this low. Now we know that market wants to push lower, came a bit lower and still give us another big drop over here, breaking this low again, breaking this low to the downside. So now let's focus more on here, what's happening over here. What's happening over here? Now you can see the same thing happening, right? So the fact that gold hasn't broken, or the fact that gold hasn't broken this high, right? Gold still has chances of pushing lower to the downside over here, right? To the downside over here. That's why we're expecting next week, either when market opens or on Monday, gold has higher chances of pushing more lower to the downside to 43.75, right? 43.75. And you have to know that this is a 2,000 pip movement, so it's a very big move. If gold doesn't push the upside and gives us some kind of, if gold breaks this high, which means it wants to come and respect this extreme supply zone. It wants to come and respect this extreme supply zone, this one, before we can see some movement like that, right? Why am I saying that it's a supply zone? That is also a lower high you have to pay attention to, right? That's a very lower high you have to also pay attention to. Let's draw our Fibonacci retracement from where the movement started. When we draw our Fibonacci to where the movement started to the downside, we can see that you can see that this zone, as we always tell, like as I always tell you on my Fibonacci, where I'm really focused on, I'm mostly focused on this zone, which is the in between 61 to 78 percent zones. So that's why I told you gold can, if gold wants to push up, this is a zone gold will push up to before giving any bearish movement. Like if you remember, like I told you on DXY, if DXY wants to push up or retrace down before pushing up, I told you, or I marked some zones DXY can retrace to before pushing up. So if DXY is retracing downwards, you have to know that gold will retrace upwards, right? Yeah, that's how we analyze the market. You have to mark zones on DXY, mark zones on gold, right? So if you see any kind of retracement on DXY to a certain level or to a demand zone, you have to know that gold will push up to a supply zone, right? So like we said, if DXY wants to push down to a demand zone or a support zone, we also expect gold to push up to a supply zone or a resistance zone, right, before giving us bearish movement, right? So if you don't see any kind of retracement to the upside before bringing or pushing down, we will just see a sharp movement to the downside on gold as soon as market opens, because this is a clear bearish movement, right? So we'll be expecting a sell or sells on gold still next week, because I'm still in sales on gold, and I'm running massively. I'm still in sales on gold, so we'll be expecting more sales on gold unless this high gets broken. That's when we know that gold has shifted from bearish to bullish. So for now, we are still looking on sales on gold. Yeah, we are still looking on sales on gold. Let's go to BTC and see what's gonna happen on BTC. Like I told you, BTC is still in an uptrend on weekly time frame, right? You can see this resistance is now turning into support. Market is respecting this resistance, which is now a support, and BTC got to a demand zone. We got a little bit of consolidation over here, so market has now tapped into that consolidation or demand zone and it's giving us a bullish movement, right? So let's forget about here and focus more on what's happening over here. This is a weekly time frame, so this movement is really huge or big. You don't have to overlook this movement, right? This movement is huge, and we can see BTC giving us a bullish movement to the upside. Bullish movement to the upside, right? A bullish movement to the upside. You can see BTC giving higher highs and higher lows. We got higher high over here, higher low, higher high. We got higher low, we got higher high over here, higher low, higher high, right? So this one is a retracement to retrace, to tap into this demand zone, and we can see when market tapped into this demand zone, is giving us a big movement. So we expect more buys on gold, BTC to the upside, right? Unless this low is being broken, that's when maybe BTC can come down to this side, right? Yeah, we don't really trade BTC unless weekends or unless we see any kind of clear movement. I don't really trade BTC. Our overall trend, our overall target on BTC is 94,000, and if BTC doesn't get to 94,000 and breaks this 73,000, our next target will be 65,000. Yeah, so that's what I'm expecting on BTC for now. I'm expecting buys on BTC, right, to push the upwards, to push more up, right? If you don't see that, we'll see a clear movement to the downside on BTC to 65,000. Yeah, I don't want to make the video long today. We are really focused on gold and BTC, or gold specifically, and I've given you the analysis on gold, right? So which is a very good point. You have to hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this each and every day, more educational content on the way. All right, see you next week when market opens. See you tomorrow when market opens. you hear from me. Join my community as well. I drop all the trading signals and everything. We've always been hitting TPs upon TPs, like you all know. So do well to join the community, and let's eat together. The goal is to beat financial, to get financial freedom and all that, beat poverty as well. Yeah. All right, peace.